The morning mist hung low over Kensington Palace as the first rays of autumn sunlight filtered through the ancient oak trees surrounding the royal residence. Princess Charlotte, now 8 years old, had developed a routine that brought both joy and concern to her protection officers. She loved exploring the vast corridors and hidden passages of the palace, her curiosity as boundless as her energy. On this particular Tuesday morning in October, Charlotte had finished her breakfast of fresh berries and toast with her governess, Miss Henderson. The princess had been unusually quiet during the meal, her bright blue eyes gazing out the tall windows toward the palace gardens where maintenance workers were preparing the grounds for the upcoming winter months. "Your Royal Highness seems thoughtful today," Miss Henderson observed, noting Charlotte's distant expression. The governess had been with the royal family for 3 years and had grown accustomed to the princess's moods and patterns. Charlotte turned from the window, her golden hair catching the morning light. "I heard strange sounds last night, Miss Henderson, from the old wing of the palace. Papa said it was just the building settling, but it sounded different, like someone was walking where no one should be walking." The governess felt a small chill at the child's words. The old wing of Kensington Palace had been closed for renovations for the past 6 months. The area was strictly off-limits due to structural work being conducted on the historic Tudor foundations. Security protocols had been implemented to ensure no one, not even royal family members, could access that section without proper authorization and safety equipment. "Princess, you mustn't worry about such things. The palace is one of the safest places in all of England. Your protection officers ensure that every corner is secure," Miss Henderson replied, though she made a mental note to mention Charlotte's concerns to the security team. After breakfast, Charlotte was scheduled for her morning lessons in the blue drawing room. Mathematics, followed by French conversation, and then her favorite subject, British history. However, as they walked through the long gallery toward the lesson room, Charlotte's attention was drawn to a partially open door that led to a service corridor. The door should have been locked. Security protocols demanded that all access points to restricted areas remain sealed during the renovation period. Charlotte's protection officer, Sergeant James Morrison, noticed her gaze and immediately moved to investigate. "Stay with Miss Henderson, Princess," Morrison instructed, his voice carrying the authority that came from 15 years of royal protection service. He approached the door with the practiced caution of someone trained to spot potential security breaches. As Morrison examined the door, he discovered that the lock had been tampered with. The mechanism showed signs of recent manipulation, and fresh scratches on the metal indicated someone with lock-picking skills had gained access. His radio crackled to life as he immediately reported the situation to the Central Security Command. "Control, this is Morrison. We have a potential security breach at Access Point 7. Door to the old wing has been compromised. Requesting immediate backup and full sweep of the area." The response was immediate. "Copy that, Morrison. Emergency protocols are now in effect. Palace lockdown initiated. All personnel report positions immediately." Charlotte watched the sudden flurry of activity with wide eyes. She had witnessed security drills before, but this felt different. The tension in the air was real, and the urgency in the guards' movement suggested this was not an exercise. Within minutes, the palace filled with the sound of radio chatter and quick footsteps. Additional protection officers appeared from various corridors, each taking predetermined positions throughout the royal residence. The head of palace security, Commander Sarah Walsh, arrived at Charlotte's location with 3 additional officers. "Your Royal Highness, we're going to move you to a secure location while we investigate this matter," Commander Walsh explained with calm professionalism. "This is purely precautionary, and there's no immediate danger, but we must follow protocol." Charlotte nodded solemnly. Despite her young age, she understood the seriousness of security matters. Living as a member of the royal family meant accepting certain realities about protection and potential threats. As they moved through the palace corridors toward the secure wing, Charlotte noticed things she had never observed before. Hidden cameras in ceiling corners, pressure sensors beneath certain floor tiles, and guards positioned at intervals that created invisible protective barriers throughout the building. The secure wing of Kensington Palace was a marvel of modern security technology disguised within historic architecture. Bulletproof glass that looked like traditional windows, reinforced walls hidden behind period wallpaper, and communication systems integrated seamlessly into antique furnishings. Charlotte was escorted to a comfortable room that served as both a safe haven and a command center. Multiple screens displayed feeds from security cameras throughout the palace, and radio communications allowed real-time coordination with protection teams. "What exactly did you hear last night, Princess?" Commander Walsh asked gently. Her years of experience had taught her that children often notice details that adults might overlook. Charlotte thought carefully before responding. "It was around midnight. I had gotten up for a glass of water and heard footsteps. Not normal footsteps like when the guards do their patrols. These were sneaky footsteps, like someone trying not to be heard but not succeeding completely." Commander Walsh exchanged glances with Sergeant Morrison. The princess's description matched the timeline of when the night security shift had reported minor anomalies in the sensor readings from the old wing. "Did you see anything unusual, Your Royal Highness? Any shadows or lights where there shouldn't have been any?" Morrison asked. "There was a light. A small light, like from a mobile phone, moving behind the windows in the old wing. I watched it for about 10 minutes before it disappeared," Charlotte replied. The security team now had confirmation that someone had indeed been in the restricted area the previous night. The implications were serious. An unauthorized person had managed to breach palace security, access a closed section of the building, and potentially gather intelligence about the royal residence's layout and security measures. Commander Walsh activated her emergency communication device. "This is Palace Command. We have confirmed unauthorized access to the old wing. Suspect was present approximately 12 hours ago and may have conducted reconnaissance. All units maintain heightened alert status. Forensic team required immediately." Charlotte watched the security preparations with fascination rather than fear. She had been raised to understand that protection was a normal part of royal life, not something to be feared but respected and appreciated. "Commander Walsh, will you catch the person who was in the palace?" Charlotte asked with the directness that only a child could manage. "We will do everything in our power to identify and apprehend anyone who threatens the security of this palace, Your Royal Highness. That is our promise to you and your family." The forensic team arrived within 30 minutes dressed in plain clothes to avoid drawing attention from any potential surveillance of the palace grounds. They immediately began processing the compromised door and the corridors beyond for evidence of the intruder's presence. Meanwhile, Charlotte remained in the secure wing, continuing her lessons with Miss Henderson while protection officers maintained constant vigilance. The princess seemed remarkably composed for a child whose home had been potentially compromised by an unknown intruder. As the morning progressed, the forensic team made several discoveries: footprints in dust-covered areas of the old wing, fingerprints on window frames, and most concerning of all, evidence that the intruder had spent considerable time photographing the palace's internal structure and security measures. The individual was methodical and prepared, the lead forensic investigator reported to Commander Walsh. They brought professional equipment and had detailed knowledge of the palace layout. This wasn't a random break-in or curiosity-driven exploration. The implications sent a chill through the security team. Someone with specific intent regarding the royal family had spent hours inside Kensington Palace, gathering intelligence and potentially planning future activities. Charlotte, meanwhile, had been thinking about the events of the morning. Despite her young age, she possessed an intuitive understanding of danger that impressed the protection officers. She approached Commander Walsh with a question that would prove more insightful than anyone expected. "Commander, if someone wanted to learn about the palace, wouldn't they need to come back? I mean, if they were planning something, wouldn't one visit not be enough?" The question struck Commander Walsh with the force of its simple logic. Charlotte was absolutely right. If this had been reconnaissance for a larger plan, the intruder would likely return to gather additional intelligence or to execute whatever scheme they had devised. "You're very observant, Princess. That's exactly what our security analysts are considering right now," Commander Walsh replied, impressed by the child's reasoning ability. The realization that the threat might not be over, that the intruder could return, changed the entire dynamic of the security response. What had begun as an investigation of a past breach now became preparation for a potential future encounter. Emergency protocols were expanded to include continuous monitoring of all possible access points, installation of additional temporary security measures, and coordination with external law enforcement agencies who specialized in royal protection. As the day wore on, Charlotte remained remarkably calm, even helpful, providing details about the sounds and sights she had observed that might assist the investigation. Her cooperation impressed everyone involved in the security response. The morning's events had transformed an ordinary day at Kensington Palace into a complex security operation, but they had also revealed something unexpected about Princess Charlotte. Despite her young age, she possessed an awareness and composure that would serve her well in future challenges. As afternoon approached, the investigation continued to unfold, but the immediate threat seemed to have passed. However, everyone involved knew that this was likely just the beginning of a more complex situation that would test the palace's security systems and the courage of everyone within its ancient walls. The stage was set for events that would challenge not only the royal family's protection, but also reveal the remarkable character of a young princess who refused to be intimidated by those who would threaten her family's safety. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the palace grounds as Commander Walsh received an urgent update from the forensic team. The evidence they had gathered painted a disturbing picture of professional surveillance and planning. The intruder had not only photographed the palace's interior, but had also placed tiny electronic devices in strategic locations throughout the old wing. "These are sophisticated listening devices," the lead technician explained, holding up a device no larger than a coin. "Military grade, nearly undetectable. Whoever placed these has access to advanced surveillance equipment and knows how to use it." Princess Charlotte, who had been quietly working on her French vocabulary in the secure room, looked up with interest. Her ability to remain focused despite the ongoing security crisis had impressed her governess and the protection officers alike. "What do those little devices do?" Charlotte asked, approaching the technician with the natural curiosity that defined her personality. "They listen to conversations, Princess, and send that information to someone far away," the technician explained in terms an 8-year-old could understand. Charlotte's expression grew serious. "So someone has been listening to our family's private conversations?" The weight of that realization settled over everyone in the room. The royal family's private moments, their discussions about schedules, security measures, and personal matters, had potentially been compromised for an unknown period. Commander Walsh immediately activated the emergency communication system that connected directly to the Prince and Princess of Wales, who were attending official engagements in London. The conversation was brief but urgent, resulting in the immediate cancellation of their remaining appointments and their swift return to Kensington Palace. Meanwhile, the technical team began a comprehensive sweep of the entire palace, searching for additional surveillance devices. The process was painstaking, requiring specialized equipment to detect the sophisticated electronics that had been secretly installed. Charlotte watched the sweep with fascination, asking intelligent questions about how the detection equipment worked and why someone would want to spy on her family. Her questions demonstrated a maturity beyond her years and a clear understanding that the situation was serious. "Princess, you mentioned hearing sounds last night around midnight," Sergeant Morrison said, reviewing his notes. "Can you remember anything else about that time? Any other details that might help us understand when these devices were placed?" Charlotte closed her eyes, concentrating on the memory. "There was something else. I heard a sound like tape being pulled off a roll, several times. And once, I thought I heard someone whisper, but I couldn't make out the words." The description of tape sounds aligned perfectly with what the technical team knew about the installation of the surveillance devices. Charlotte's observations were providing crucial information about the intruder's activities. As the afternoon progressed, the technical sweep revealed 5 additional listening devices placed throughout the palace's main living areas. The locations were strategically chosen to capture conversations in the family's most frequently used spaces: the morning room, the study, the informal dining area, and most alarmingly, near Charlotte's bedroom. The discovery of a device near the princess's private quarters sent shockwaves through the security team. The implications were chilling. Someone had been specifically targeting the 8-year-old royal, listening to her conversations, her bedtime stories, her private moments with her family. Commander Walsh felt a cold anger building within her. In her 20 years of royal protection service, she had never encountered such a brazen and personal violation of the royal family's privacy. This wasn't just a security breach. It was an attack on the innocence and safety of a child. "I want every inch of this palace searched again," she ordered her team. "If there are surveillance devices, there might be other things. Hidden cameras, tracking devices, anything that could compromise the princess's safety." The expanded search began immediately, but it was interrupted by an urgent call from the perimeter security team. Motion sensors in the palace grounds had detected movement in an area that should have been empty. Someone was approaching the palace, moving carefully through the landscape gardens under cover of the ornamental shrubs and trees.
All units, we have movement in Sector 7, the perimeter team leader reported.
Individual appears to be conducting surveillance of the building's exterior. Moving to intercept. Charlotte looked up from her books, sensing the sudden tension in the room. Is the person coming back? She asked with remarkable calmness. We're not certain yet, Princess, but we're prepared for any possibility, Commander Walsh replied, admiring the child's composure under pressure. The perimeter team's pursuit of the suspicious individual led them on a careful chase through the palace grounds. The intruder was skilled in evasion techniques, moving quickly between cover points and demonstrating knowledge of the property's layout that suggested previous reconnaissance. Charlotte moved to the window of the secure room, watching the distant figures of security personnel coordinating their search. Despite the danger, she found the operation fascinating rather than frightening. They work very well together, don't they? She observed, noting how the security teams communicated and moved in coordinated patterns. Yes, Princess. They train extensively to protect your family, Miss Henderson replied, though her own nervousness was evident in her voice. The chase continued for nearly an hour before the security team managed to corner the intruder near the palace's historic orangery. The individual was apprehended without violence, though they immediately demanded to speak with a lawyer and refused to provide any identification. Commander Walsh received the update with satisfaction mixed with concern. They had caught someone, but whether this person was connected to the previous night's break-in or the surveillance devices remained to be determined. Bring the suspect to interview room 3, she instructed, and ensure that Princess Charlotte remains in the secure wing until we know exactly what we're dealing with. The arrested individual was a woman in her 30s, professionally dressed and carrying sophisticated camera equipment. Her refusal to cooperate suggested either legal training or experience with law enforcement procedures. She provided no explanation for her presence on the palace grounds and showed no surprise at being caught with surveillance equipment. During the initial questioning, it became clear that this was not a casual trespasser or an overzealous photographer seeking pictures of the royal residence. The woman's equipment was too advanced, her knowledge of the grounds too detailed, and her composure too practiced for this to be anything other than a professional operation. Charlotte, meanwhile, had been thinking about the day's events with the analytical mind that would serve her well in future royal duties. She approached Commander Walsh with another insight that proved remarkably perceptive. Commander, if this woman was taking pictures today and someone else was inside the palace last night, doesn't that mean there are at least 2 people involved in whatever they're planning? The observation stopped Commander Walsh in her tracks. Charlotte was absolutely right. The evidence suggested a coordinated operation involving multiple individuals, each with specific roles and expertise. This wasn't the work of a lone individual, but rather an organized effort with potentially far-reaching implications. Princess, you have an excellent mind for security matters, Commander Walsh said with genuine admiration. Your observation is exactly what our analysts are concluding. The realization that they were dealing with an organized group rather than an individual intruder changed everything. Security protocols were immediately escalated to the highest level, with additional personnel called in from Scotland Yard and MI5's Royal Protection Division. Charlotte's parents, the Prince and Princess of Wales, arrived at Kensington Palace in the early evening, accompanied by their own security detail and senior palace officials. The reunion was emotional but brief, as the ongoing investigation required immediate attention and decisions about the family's safety. Are you all right, darling? The Princess of Wales asked, embracing her daughter with the relief of a mother whose child had been in potential danger. I'm fine, Mama. The security officers have been wonderful, and I think I've been helpful with the investigation, Charlotte replied with the confidence that had characterized her throughout the crisis. The Prince of Wales conferred immediately with Commander Walsh and the senior security officials, reviewing the evidence and discussing the implications of what appeared to be a sophisticated surveillance operation targeting their family. The devices we've found suggest someone has been gathering intelligence about our routines, our conversations, our security measures, Commander Walsh explained. The coordination with today's attempted surveillance indicates this is an ongoing operation with specific objectives. The evening briefing revealed additional concerning details. Analysis of the surveillance devices showed they had been active for at least 2 weeks, meaning that significant amounts of private family conversations had been recorded and transmitted to unknown recipients. Charlotte listened to portions of the briefing that were deemed appropriate for her age, continuing to ask thoughtful questions and provide observations that assisted the investigation. Her involvement had evolved from that of a protected individual to that of a valuable witness and even a junior consultant. As night fell over Kensington Palace, enhanced security measures were implemented throughout the building and grounds. Additional guards, advanced detection equipment, and constant patrols created multiple layers of protection around the royal family. Charlotte was moved to guest quarters in the most secure section of the palace, where she would remain until the full extent of the surveillance operation could be determined. Despite the upheaval, she adapted to the new arrangements with remarkable resilience. "Tomorrow we'll know more about who these people are and what they wanted," Commander Walsh assured the young princess as she was settled into her temporary quarters. "Will you catch all of them?" Charlotte asked with the directness that had characterized her questions throughout the crisis. "We will do everything in our power to protect your family and ensure this never happens again," Commander Walsh promised. As Charlotte drifted off to sleep in her secure quarters, protected by guards and surrounded by the most advanced security technology available, she remained unaware that the most dangerous part of the operation was yet to come. The individuals they had detected were merely the advance team for something much larger and more threatening than anyone yet realized. The morning of the third day brought unprecedented security measures to Kensington Palace. Overnight, MI5 had taken control of the investigation after discovering that the surveillance operation was connected to a foreign intelligence network with interests far beyond simple royal watching. The implications were staggering and reached the highest levels of national security. Princess Charlotte awakened to find her temporary quarters surrounded by unfamiliar faces, counterintelligence specialists who had arrived before dawn to implement emergency protection protocols. Despite the intensity of the situation, she maintained her characteristic composure, greeting the new security personnel with polite curiosity. "Good morning, Princess," said Agent Sarah Chen, the MI5 operative now leading Charlotte's personal protection detail. "I know this is all very unusual, but we're here to ensure your complete safety while we resolve this situation." Charlotte studied Agent Chen with the perceptive gaze that had impressed everyone involved in the investigation. "Are the people who are watching us very dangerous?" she asked with the directness that had become her trademark throughout the crisis. Agent Chen appreciated the princess's straightforward approach. "They represent a serious concern, Princess, which is why we're taking every possible precaution to protect you and your family." The interrogation of the woman captured the previous day had yielded disturbing information during the night. Under questioning by MI5's most experienced counterintelligence officers, she had eventually revealed that the surveillance operation was part of a larger plan to gather intelligence about the royal family's security procedures, daily routines, and vulnerable moments. The woman, identified as Dr. Elena Vasquez, was a former communications specialist who had been recruited by a network that specialized in gathering intelligence about high-profile targets for purposes that remained unclear. Her cooperation came only after she was informed that additional arrests had been made during coordinated raids across London. Commander Walsh briefed Charlotte's parents on the overnight developments, while the princess continued her morning routine under enhanced protection. The briefing revealed that the surveillance network had been operating for months, not weeks, and had gathered extensive information about multiple members of the royal family. The scope of their intelligence gathering suggests this wasn't random curiosity about the royal family, Commander Walsh explained. They had specific objectives that we're still working to understand fully. Charlotte, meanwhile, had been observing the new security procedures with her usual keen interest. The additional personnel, the modified routines, and the constant communication between various security teams created an environment that was both protective and educational for the young princess. "Agent Chen, how do you catch people who are very good at hiding?" Charlotte asked during her supervised breakfast in the secure dining area. The question demonstrated the princess's growing understanding of the complexities involved in security operations. Agent Chen recognized an opportunity to help Charlotte understand the situation while maintaining appropriate boundaries about operational details. "We look for patterns, Princess. Even very clever people leave traces of their activities, and we're trained to find those traces and put them together like pieces of a puzzle." Charlotte nodded thoughtfully. Like how I noticed the sounds and lights when no one else did? Exactly like that. Your observations were crucial to our understanding of what was happening. The morning brought additional revelations as MI5's technical team completed their analysis of the surveillance devices found throughout the palace. The equipment was more sophisticated than initially assessed, capable not only of recording conversations, but also of transmitting real-time audio and even environmental data such as room temperatures and occupancy patterns. This information had allowed the surveillance network to build detailed profiles of the royal family's habits, preferences, and routines. They knew when Charlotte typically went to bed, what her favorite breakfast foods were, which rooms she preferred for studying, and countless other intimate details of her daily life. The violation felt personal and threatening to everyone involved in protecting the royal family. Commander Walsh found herself dealing not only with a security breach, but with the emotional impact of knowing that Charlotte's private life had been invaded so thoroughly. Princess, we need to discuss some changes to your routine while we complete our investigation. Commander Walsh explained during a security briefing that included Charlotte as an active participant, rather than simply someone to be protected. Charlotte's inclusion in security discussions had evolved naturally from her valuable contributions to the investigation. Her observations, questions, and insights had proven so helpful that the protection team had begun consulting her about various aspects of the security response. What kind of changes? Charlotte asked, demonstrating her willingness to cooperate with whatever measures were necessary. We'll be modifying your schedule, changing some of your usual activities, and implementing additional security measures throughout the palace, Commander Walsh explained. These changes will help ensure that anyone still trying to gather information about your family will find their previous intelligence unreliable. The strategy was elegant in its simplicity. By altering the royal family's routines and security procedures, they would make any previously gathered intelligence obsolete, while creating new patterns that would be much harder to predict or monitor. Charlotte embraced the changes with enthusiasm rather than complaint. The modified schedule included new study locations, different meal times, and alternative routes through the palace. Each change was designed to disrupt any remaining surveillance efforts while maintaining the princess's education. However, the afternoon brought an alarming development that tested everyone's resolve. Perimeter sensors detected multiple individuals, conducting coordinated surveillance of the palace from different positions around the grounds. Unlike the previous incidents, this appeared to be a significant operation involving several people working in concert. We have eyes on at least 6 individuals in positions that provide comprehensive coverage of the palace exterior, the perimeter team leader reported. Their coordination suggests military or intelligence training. Charlotte was immediately moved to the most secure location within the palace, a reinforced safe room that had been constructed during recent renovations, specifically for emergency situations. The room was equipped with independent communication systems, supplies for extended occupation, and direct connection to external emergency services. This is just a precaution, Princess, Agent Chen explained as they settled into the secure location. We want to ensure your complete safety while our teams deal with the situation outside. Charlotte adapted to the confined space with remarkable grace, treating the experience as an adventure rather than an imprisonment. She brought books, her sketchpad, and maintained her positive attitude despite the obviously serious nature of the threat. Are there enough guards to handle 6 people? She asked, demonstrating her understanding that they were potentially outnumbered. We have sufficient personnel and resources, Princess. Plus, we have advantages that the people outside don't know about. Agent Chen replied with confidence that wasn't entirely forced. The advantages Agent Chen referenced included backup units from multiple security agencies that had been positioned around the palace grounds since the early morning. The coordinated surveillance attempt was walking into a carefully prepared response that involved over 40 trained personnel. The operation to apprehend the surveillance team began in the late afternoon and unfolded with military precision. Each individual was approached simultaneously by specialized teams, preventing any opportunity for coordination or escape. The arrests were conducted without violence, but with overwhelming tactical superiority. Charlotte listened to updates about the operation through a secure communication system, following the progress of each arrest with intense interest. Her questions about tactical procedures and coordination demonstrated an understanding of security operations that impressed the professionals around her. They caught all C's people? she asked when Agent Chen reported the successful completion of the arrests. All 6 individuals are now in custody, and we're conducting a thorough search to ensure no one else was involved in today's operation. The arrest of the 6-person surveillance team provided MI5 with a wealth of new information about the scope and objectives of the intelligence gathering operation targeting the royal family. Initial questioning revealed that this was indeed part of a larger network with international connections and sophisticated resources. More troubling was the discovery that the surveillance operation had been preparing for something beyond simple intelligence gathering. Equipment found with the arrested individuals suggested they had been planning some form of direct action, though the specific nature of that action remained unclear. Charlotte spent the evening in the secure room while counterintelligence specialists worked to determine whether additional threats remained. The princess used the time productively, completing schoolwork and asking thoughtful questions about the security procedures she was observing. Agent Chen, when all of this is over, will the palace be safer than it was before? Charlotte asked as evening settled over the building. The question demonstrated the princess's forward-thinking approach to the crisis. Rather than dwelling on the frightening aspects of the situation, she was already considering how the experience might lead to improvements in her family's protection. Yes, Princess. Every security challenge teaches us ways to become better at protecting the people we serve. Your observations and cooperation have been particularly valuable in that learning process. Charlotte smiled at the compliment, but her expression remained thoughtful. I hope the people who are watching us understand that we're just a family trying to do our best for the country. The comment revealed the depth of Charlotte's understanding about her family's role and the challenges that came with public service. At 8 years old, she was already grappling with complex questions about duty, service, and the personal costs of public life. As night fell over Kensington Palace, enhanced security measures remained in full effect. The arrests had eliminated the immediate surveillance threat, but intelligence analysts were working through the night to understand the full scope of the network that had targeted the royal family. Charlotte was allowed to return to her temporary quarters under continued enhanced protection. The day's events had been intense and challenging, but she had handled each development with remarkable maturity and resilience. Tomorrow, we should know much more about what these people were planning, and whether there are others we need to be concerned about, Agent Chen explained as Charlotte prepared for bed.
Will you tell me what you learn?
I promise I can handle whatever the truth is, Charlotte said with the seriousness that had characterized her involvement throughout the crisis. Agent Chen looked at the young princess with admiration and respect. I will tell you everything that's appropriate for you to know. You've earned the right to understand what's been happening and why. As Charlotte settled into sleep, protected by multiple layers of security and surrounded by dedicated professionals committed to her safety, the investigation continued into the night. The arrests had provided significant intelligence about the surveillance network, but questions remained about their ultimate objectives and whether additional threats existed. The crisis had revealed not only the vulnerabilities in royal security, but also the remarkable character of Princess Charlotte herself. Her courage, intelligence, and composure under pressure had impressed everyone involved in protecting her family. Whatever challenges lay ahead, it was clear that Charlotte possessed the strength and wisdom to face them with dignity and grace. The 4th day dawned with an atmosphere of cautious optimism at Kensington Palace. Overnight interrogations of the arrested surveillance team had yielded crucial intelligence that allowed MI5 to understand both the scope of the threat and the network's ultimate objectives. Princess Charlotte would finally learn the truth about why her family had been targeted. Agent Chen arrived at Charlotte's quarters with a carefully prepared briefing suitable for the young princess. The intelligence gathered during the night had revealed that the surveillance operation was part of a commercial espionage network rather than a foreign intelligence threat, though the implications remained serious. Princess, we now understand what the people watching your family were trying to accomplish, Agent Chen began, settling into the comfortable chair across from Charlotte's breakfast table. Charlotte set down her orange juice and gave Agent Chen her complete attention. Throughout the crisis, she had demonstrated remarkable maturity in handling difficult information, and the security team had learned to trust her ability to process complex situations appropriately. They weren't trying to hurt us, were they? Charlotte asked with the perceptive insight that had characterized her questions throughout the investigation. No, Princess. They weren't planning to cause physical harm to your family. but their activities were still very serious and illegal, Agent Chen explained. The surveillance network, as MI5 had discovered, was operated by a private intelligence company that specialized in gathering personal information about high-profile individuals for wealthy clients. These clients used the information for various purposes: business negotiations, social advantage, investment decisions, and personal curiosity about the private lives of famous people. The royal family had been targeted because detailed information about their preferences, routines, and private conversations could be sold to multiple buyers interested in gaining advantages in business dealings with companies that held royal warrants, social connections with aristocratic circles, or simply the voyeuristic satisfaction of knowing intimate details about the monarchy. So they were selling information about our family to people who wanted to know our private business? Charlotte asked, grasping the essential nature of the violation. Exactly, Princess. Your family's privacy was being treated as a commodity to be bought and sold, Agent Chen confirmed. The revelation helped explain the sophisticated nature of the surveillance operation. Commercial espionage networks often employed former intelligence professionals and used advanced technology because their clients were willing to pay premium prices for high-quality information about exclusive targets. Charlotte's expression grew thoughtful as she processed this information. That means people we don't even know might know things about our family that they shouldn't know. Unfortunately, yes. But now that we've stopped the surveillance and arrested the people involved, we're working to understand exactly what information was gathered and who might have purchased it. The morning briefing with Charlotte's parents revealed additional details about the network's operations. The intelligence company, operating under the name Exclusive Insights International, had been gathering information about various high-profile families across Europe for nearly 3 years before targeting the British royal family. Their client list included wealthy business people, social climbers seeking insider information about aristocratic circles, and companies hoping to gain advantages in negotiations with organizations connected to the royal family. The prices paid for exclusive intelligence about the royals were particularly high, creating strong financial incentives for the surveillance operation. The scope of their client network suggests that information about our family may have been distributed more widely than we initially feared, the Prince of Wales explained to his security team during a morning strategy session. Commander Walsh had spent the night coordinating with international intelligence agencies to identify and apprehend other components of the network. The arrests at Kensington Palace had been part of a broader operation that involved law enforcement agencies in 6 different countries. Charlotte, meanwhile, had been thinking about the implications of the commercial espionage revelation. During her morning lessons with Miss Henderson, she asked questions that demonstrated her growing understanding of the complexities surrounding royal privacy and public life. Miss Henderson, if people are willing to pay money to know private things about our family, does that mean we can never really have privacy? Charlotte asked during their history lesson about previous royal generations. The question touched on fundamental issues about modern monarchy and the balance between public service and private life. Miss Henderson recognized that Charlotte was grappling with concepts that would shape her understanding of her role as a member of the royal family. Privacy is something your family has to work harder to protect than most people, Princess. But it's still possible to maintain private spaces and relationships, especially when you have people dedicated to protecting those boundaries. Charlotte nodded thoughtfully, but her expression suggested she understood that the recent events had revealed vulnerabilities in those protective boundaries that would need to be addressed. The afternoon brought positive developments as international law enforcement coordination began yielding arrests of additional network members and clients. The investigation had expanded beyond the immediate threat to Charlotte's family to encompass a broader effort to shut down commercial espionage operations targeting multiple high-profile individuals. Agent Chen provided Charlotte with updates about the expanding investigation, carefully explaining how the arrests at Kensington Palace had led to discoveries about similar operations in other countries. The princess listened with intense interest, asking questions that showed she understood the international scope of privacy violations affecting public figures. Are other royal families dealing with the same kind of spying? Charlotte asked. Several other prominent families have been targeted by similar networks, Princess. Your family's experience is helping to protect others who face the same threats. The revelation that their crisis was contributing to broader protection efforts seemed to provide Charlotte with a sense of purpose about the difficult experience. Rather than viewing herself simply as a victim of privacy invasion, She began to see her family's ordeal as part of a larger effort to protect public figures from commercial exploitation. Late afternoon brought the most significant development yet. MI5's digital forensics team had successfully traced the electronic communications network used by the surveillance operation, leading to the discovery of their main data storage facility and client communication systems. The facility, located in a nondescript office building in central London, contained servers holding vast amounts of illegally gathered information about hundreds of high-profile individuals across Europe and North America. The raid on the facility provided law enforcement with evidence of the network's complete operations and client base. This discovery represents one of the largest commercial espionage operations ever uncovered in the United Kingdom. The senior MI5 official briefed the Royal Protection Team. The arrest of the surveillance team at Kensington Palace led us directly to this much larger network. Charlotte learned about this development during her evening briefing with Agent Chen and Commander Walsh. The news that her family's experience had led to the dismantling of a major criminal network brought a smile to the young princess's face. "So the people who were spying on us accidentally led you to catch lots of other criminals?" Charlotte asked with evident satisfaction. "That's exactly what happened, Princess. Sometimes stopping one crime reveals many others," Commander Walsh confirmed. The evening also brought news about the specific intelligence that had been gathered about Charlotte's family. Forensic analysis of the surveillance devices and data storage systems revealed that the network had been particularly focused on the children's routines, educational activities, and personal preferences. This information was particularly valuable to their clients because it could be used to predict the family's future schedules, anticipate their needs for various services, and even influence business decisions related to companies that might seek royal endorsements or patronage. "They were especially interested in your daily routine, Princess, because you represent the future of the monarchy," Agent Chen explained. "Information about your education, interests, and personality was considered extremely valuable by their clients." Charlotte found this revelation both disturbing and oddly flattering. The idea that strangers considered her daily life so interesting was unsettling. But the recognition that she was already viewed as an important future leader was something she took seriously. "Will this experience help me be better prepared for royal duties when I'm older?" Charlotte asked with characteristic directness. The question impressed both Agent Chen and Commander Walsh. At 8 years old, Charlotte was already thinking about how current experiences would shape her future effectiveness as a member of the royal family. "I believe this experience has taught you valuable lessons about security, privacy, and the responsibilities that come with public life," Commander Walsh replied. "Those lessons will certainly serve you well in future years." The crisis concluded with a comprehensive security review that would lead to significant improvements in royal protection protocols. Charlotte's observations and insights had contributed valuable perspectives to the review process, and her suggestions would be incorporated into future security planning. More importantly, the experience had revealed Charlotte's remarkable character under pressure. Her courage, intelligence, and maturity throughout the crisis had impressed everyone involved in protecting her family. She had faced a serious threat with composure and had contributed meaningfully to resolving the situation. As normal routines gradually resumed at Kensington Palace, Charlotte reflected on the lessons learned during the 4 days of crisis. The experience had taught her about the complexities of royal life, the dedication of the people who protected her family, and her own capabilities when faced with challenging situations. "Agent Chen, do you think there will be other people who try to spy on our family in the future?" Charlotte asked during their final formal briefing. "There probably will be, Princess, but now we understand these threats much better, and we have better ways to detect and stop them. Plus, we know that you're an excellent observer who can help us notice things that other people might miss." Charlotte smiled at the compliment, but her expression remained thoughtful. "I want to help protect my family, but I also want to make sure that our private moments stay private." The comment demonstrated Charlotte's understanding of the fundamental challenge facing modern royalty, balancing public service with personal privacy in an age of sophisticated surveillance technology and commercial exploitation. The crisis had ended successfully, with the surveillance network dismantled and its members facing serious criminal charges. More importantly, Princess Charlotte had emerged from the experience with enhanced awareness of her role, greater appreciation for the people who protected her family, and confidence in her own ability to handle difficult situations with grace and intelligence. The young princess had proven that she possessed the courage, wisdom, and composure necessary to face whatever challenges her future might hold. The chilling palace moment had become a defining experience that would shape her approach to royal duty and personal resilience for years to come.